Okay, let's get started on the slides. As I said, what I'm really talking about is power options for today's needs. And the reason we put it that way, today's needs, is because things are very rapidly changing. When I started Airstreaming 20 odd years ago, it was a very different story. We often just had one or maybe two batteries. We didn't do much. Most people did not haul around a ton of laptops, Starlink, all kinds of electrical demands that we expect today as a matter of course. And over time, we've gradually increased the need for electrical power while we're boondocking. And boondocking has become more popular. So it's become more of a top of mind thing for people to try to figure out how not to run out of power while they're away from campground hookups. It's becoming an increasingly complex situation, hence this webinar, but it's also become a really interesting opportunity to make ourselves all more power independent with the options of solar, lithium batteries, bigger pure sine inverters, portable power stations, all very interesting technology. Now, as I said, the power demands are continually rising. Here's kind of an example. The big thing that we hear about from customers is that the two batteries that come with an RV are really not up to the task of staying abreast of the demands of an electric refrigerator. The electric refrigerators that they're putting in RVs these days are a lot more efficient with the technology they use, but they do draw a lot of power, about 60 watts when they're running, and they cycle on and off 24 hours a day, and it really adds up. So that is one of the big reasons we hear from people going, I went camping and, a day and a half into my trip, we ran out of power. Electric refrigerators are a big part of that. The other thing that's happening is a lot of people are using Starlink. The standard Starlink consumes quite a bit of power when it's in use. And sometimes if you don't remember to turn it off in between uses, it's using a lot of power. Even in idle mode, 20 watts adds up over 24 hours quite a bit. And that has a big impact. Starlink Mini is better, but it's still power. CPAP machines are becoming more common in RVs, and they consume quite a bit of power over an 8-hour period at night. And then, of course, a lot of people have a laptop or two laptops. Sometimes they're even using them both at the same time, and they plug them into the inverter. That's more power, and it just goes on and on and on. So we're really getting into a lot of power over the course of a 24-hour period. The good news is, as I say, we are living in a golden age of options. Solar panels have become much cheaper, and we have the options of rooftop panels and portable panels, which sit on the ground and can be repositioned. We've got lithium batteries, both installed in the trailer and portable lithium batteries. The pure sine wave inverters have become much more affordable and pretty much commonplace. 15 years ago, a pure sine wave inverter, which is the kind that you need to run electronics like a laptop, was uncommon and fairly expensive, and there weren't a lot of them on the market. These days, they're everywhere, and they're much less expensive than they used to be. And portable power stations are the new fascinating technology on the block. I have been studying power stations for some months now. As you may know, Air Gear is about to start selling portable power stations. We think this is an important new wave of technology that you're going to be interested in. So we're going to talk about that as we get into this. First of all, let's start with solar power. It's the easiest thing to talk about. Everybody knows what a solar panel is. So your real questions are, how much solar do you need? And should it be on the roof or should it be on the ground? Or do you need solar at all? And these are really valid questions. Before we get into them, though, I just want to start off with a primer on what solar does, because this is a surprisingly common area of confusion. Solar panels only do one thing. They charge the batteries. That's it. They don't run anything directly. They charge the batteries. So this chart gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. The sun shines on the panels go through a charge controller, and they charge the batteries. Everything else in the RV that is a 12-volt appliance, including the inverter, run from the batteries. They don't run off the solar panels. It's important to recognize that. Solar panels only charge batteries. You've got two options with solar panels. Pretty much everybody knows that's an Airstream Tradewind on the left side there. It's got 600 watts of solar panels on the roof, and that's very convenient. It's a lot of solar too. On the right is our Airstream with a 200-watt portable panel. both of which have their advantages and disadvantages. Rooftop solar, on the plus side, it's always there. It's on the roof. It never turns off. When you roll, it's ready to go. Nobody's going to steal it off your roof. And it's great when you're in storage. If you're not undercover during storage, those rooftop panels could keep your batteries charged, which makes long-term storage a lot easier. The downside of it is rooftop panels are massively expensive compared to portable, and they're less efficient because they're always pointed more or less straight up at the sun. They're really only good during the middle of the day. Early in the morning and late in the afternoon, when the sun is low on the horizon, those panels don't produce nearly as much power as a portable panel will do. So overall, you get less power for your dollar with rooftop panels. And that is the big price you pay for those. Also, of course, if you're parked in that lovely shade spot and enjoying the cool of a tree, your solar panels won't do pretty much anything. So they're fairly useless when you're in shade. Portable solar, on the other hand, much, much less expensive. You're talking a fraction of the cost, maybe 1/4 of the cost for the same amount of wattage of portable panels. In addition, you get more out of those panels because, as you can see, you can tilt them to face the sun, and that has a surprising effect. You'd be amazed at how much more power you get when you tilt the panel in the morning and the afternoon, something you just can't do with a rooftop. And of course, the real beauty of it, as you can see in the picture, we're enjoying the shade of a tree. We've got our panels out in full sun. It's the best of all worlds. The downside, of course, is you have to take those panels out and set them up, which takes a couple of minutes. They can't be locked up, although I'm not highly concerned about that. I've never seen anybody eyeballing my solar panels and thinking they're going to steal them. I'm not really concerned about that, but it's true. You can't lock them up. And again, when you're in storage for long periods of time, portable panels really aren't what you want. That's where rooftop has an advantage. The big question for a lot of people is, how much solar do I need? And what I see typically is people put in a lot more solar than they really need, going on the basis of either more is better, you can't have too much, which is kind of true. You can't have too much, but too much does cost you a lot of money. And the other reason I see people with overabundant solar capacity is because they went to a service center or dealer and they said, hey, I want solar panels. And not knowing what they needed, the dealership just said, okay, here's a $10,000 solar system on your roof. And people go, oh, I guess that's what it costs. So they pay the money and they get the rooftop panels. But what you don't realize is that if when you overbuy on rooftop panels, you're paying for a lot of labor. You're not paying for a lot of wattage. So it's a good idea to get an idea of what you need before you go in there and ask somebody to put panels on your roof or buy portable panels. I've got some rules of thumb here, some general guidelines. For somebody who just wants the bare minimum of solar because they just want to kind of maintain the batteries during storage, but mostly you camp at places where there's electricity. So you're not really worried about running your life off of those solar panels. I would say a bare minimum is about 90 watts of solar capacity on the roof. And that's assuming you're getting good sun while you're in storage. It's not a real cloudy area that you live in. You're just trying to keep the batteries up. Notice that whether you have the battery disconnect in the on or off position makes a big difference on how much wattage, how much solar panel you need on the roof. If you put the battery disconnect in the off or store position, you're going to dramatically reduce the amount of power that you need on the roof to keep those batteries maintained. The only reason you'd leave the battery disconnect in the on position is because on some older Airstreams, when you put the battery disconnect in the store position or off position, the solar panels also don't charge the batteries. So if you're not sure what kind of system you have in your RV, it's a good idea to talk to the people who installed it, read the owner's manual, or check with the technicians to find out if your solar panels are going to charge the batteries when the battery disconnect is activated. If you're more of a long weekend boondocker kind of person, then I would recommend you want to get 200 to 400 watts of solar capacity. And that could be either on the roof or it can be portable panels. 200 to 400, if you're a reasonable conserver of power, you're not going nuts with everything you want to use, will do pretty well, especially in a sunny climate. Now, of course, your mileage may vary. If you live in the Northeast or the Northwest and it's cloudy a lot, you might want a little bit more. But so these are just rules of thumb, but there's a general idea there. If you're a major boondocker, you're probably going to pull out all the stops. And that's where people go 400, 600, 800 watts of capacity. I've seen people go up to 11 and 1200 watts on the roof. That's difficult on an Airstream. There's not a lot of roof space. On other brands of RVs, there tends to be a little bit more. But the best thing to do in this case is don't focus on the total capacity as much as have the ability to have both rooftop and portable, getting the best of both worlds. You've got that permanently installed capacity on the roof that you don't have to set up. And when it's cloudier or you really need a lot of power, you can also deploy your portable panels and put them in the sunny spot to really give yourself ultimate flexibility. And along with this arrangement of solar capacity, I would definitely recommend that you want lithium batteries. So we're going to talk about lithium batteries next. This is the well-known battle-born lithium battery. This is the battery that Airstream puts in a new Airstream. If you buy lithium batteries at the dealership when you buy your new Airstream, or if you go to an Airstream dealership and you upgrade, they tend to put in the battle-born. A lot of people, the question is, should you upgrade from lead acid batteries to lithium? And I'm just going to cut to the chase right now. And I'm going to tell you, yes. If you boondock at all, lithium is now a no-brainer decision. And by the way, when I speak of lead acid batteries, I'm also including the so-called AGM battery. The AGM battery is a lead acid battery. It's just a different type of it. It has most of the same shortcomings as an ordinary lead acid battery. So whether you have lead acid, traditional lead acid, or an AGM, I think a lithium battery is a smart update. Let's get into why. First of all, when we talk about lithium batteries, we're talking about lithium iron phosphate batteries. That's the kind of battery that the RV industry uses, and we use it for very specific reasons. Lithium-ion batteries are very, very safe. They aren't the kind that catch fire. They have a really good power density in terms of storing a lot of power in a small space, and they're about 40% lighter than the lead acid batteries they're replacing. So not only are you getting more power in the same space, you're actually taking weight off the Airstream, which is never really a bad thing. Typically, these lithium iron phosphate batteries are called LFPs, and that's what I'm going to call them for the rest of the presentation, LFP batteries. When you compare them to lead acid, you can see why I say this is a no-brainer decision. If you're a boondocker, the only thing lithium batteries have against them is they cost a bit more. And even that gap is narrowing. Lithium batteries are getting much more cost competitive. They last longer. They're, in my opinion, safer. You're not toting around a bag of acid here. You've got a lithium battery, which is more solid state. It doesn't have sulfuric acid inside it. It's a very safe battery. We'll talk about that some more later. As I said, you get higher power density, typically getting almost double the power density in the battery, at least a third more. But there's more to that story because the rating of the battery isn't the full story. Lead acid batteries really shouldn't be drained down to less than 50% of the rated capacity. So really, when it says you've got a 62 amp hour battery, which is what that green interstate battery is, you've really only got 31 amp hours usable. So it's really a pretty weak, small battery. You go deeper than that, it's like when you're leaving the lights on in your car overnight. The battery is going to die, and the next time it's not going to work as well. And if you do that 2 or 3 times, and that battery is toast. So really, lead acid batteries only have 50% of the rated capacity if you really want them to last for a while. Whereas with a lithium iron phosphate, you can routinely drain it down to 10% or even 0% of its rated capacity, and it comes back strong. They don't have that problem. So you get a lot more usable power out of a lithium iron phosphate or LFP battery. The other thing about lithium batteries that really makes them great for RVing is that they're smart batteries. They all have what's called a BMS, a battery management system. And it's basically a little computer that's built into the battery that protects the battery against situations that commonly cause problems. Short circuits, overloading, undercharging, overcharging, a whole host of problems that can occur with a battery. The BMS will prevent that battery from being harmed. It'll cut it off and restore power when it's safe. It prevents it from being charged at too low of a temperature, too high of a temperature. There's literally dozens of protections built into a good BMS in a lithium battery. So the lithium batteries can take the kind of abuse that RVers tend to dish out, and they come back strong. And in addition to that, some of them have Bluetooth monitoring built into them, so you can even view the status of your battery with an app from the manufacturer. By the way, the Battleborns don't currently offer that capability, but some of the other brands like Renogy do. The other reason why lithium makes sense is because of a lot of things that people think are true about them aren't true. We've all heard these stories about electric cars burning to the ground and taking batteries on airplanes being dangerous. Those are a different type of lithium batteries. Those are lithium-ion batteries that are commonly used in things like laptops and small appliances and electric cars. Lithium iron phosphate is a completely different chemistry. It doesn't have that runaway problem where it gets hot or damaged and then catches fire. It's a very stable battery, and this is the reason that it's used in the RV industry. It's so safe that you can put it inside the living space, and there's really generally regarded as safe by the industry. So lithium phosphate batteries, lithium iron phosphate, LFP batteries, are not the same as the other batteries, and they are not a fire hazard. The other myth is that you can't store them at 100%, which we've all heard about various rechargeable devices. Oh, you don't want to leave it stored at 100%, it'll shorten the life of the battery. Again, not true about LFP batteries. They can be stored at 100% for a long time. They have no issue with it whatsoever. Again, this is one of those differences where buying a good quality battery does make a difference. There are some cheaper batteries that aren't made as well, and those might be damaged by being stored at 100%. So it pays to go with a name brand, an acknowledged good LFP battery, because you can find $190 LFP batteries on Amazon right now. I'm not going to recommend them. I don't know how they're building those batteries. The battery in the picture would be more like $500, but it is a case of you get what you pay for. The other nice thing about LFP batteries is that they don't self-discharge very rapidly. Lithium lead acid batteries have what's called a self-discharge rate. In other words, you store them fully charged. If you just leave them there, they're going to lose their power over time. They're self-discharging. Lithium iron phosphate batteries don't really have that problem. They self-discharge at a much, much lower rate, which means you can store them to 100%, turn on, disconnect the battery in your RV and leave it there all winter. When you come back in the spring, that battery is going to be fine. Another myth, people think that you can't use them below freezing temperatures. That's not true. They do have limitations related to the cold, but you can discharge them. You can use the batteries all the way down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about as cold as most of us ever camp. I certainly don't want to camp in those temperatures very often. They won't charge at that temperature, but once the sun comes up in the morning, they will charge. They just have to get a little bit warmer. And the BMS, again, is going to make sure that you don't charge that battery when it's too cold. So you don't have to worry about it. It's a system that is basically takes care of itself. Now, if you do routinely camp in cold temperatures and you really want it to be able to charge at low temperatures, that's fine. Renogy and Battleborn and a number of manufacturers do sell a version of the battery that has built-in heaters so that they have a much wider temperature range that they can be used in. If you're thinking about upgrading to LFP batteries, just be aware that the age of your battery does have, of your Airstream and any other RV does have an impact, because years ago they didn't put chargers in the RVs that were made for lithium batteries, and so you may have to upgrade the built-in charger in your RV. And I've got a little table here with some information about the situation for Airstream specifically. 2020 and earlier, definitely going to be making a change to your power converter. And then there was a transition couple of years, 2021, 2022, where you just had to flip a switch. And then 2023 and later, Airstream basically puts in a charger that can handle lead acid or lithium, and you don't have to do anything. It automatically senses the battery, and you're good to go. We've got details on the Air Gear Learning Hub that you can read about, a whole much more detail about LFP batteries if you care to go to airgear.store and read some of the articles and blogs that I've written on the subject. I've already mentioned this, but it bears repeating. Definitely watch out for the super cheap batteries. Lithium batteries are not the kind of thing that I would like to buy for the lowest possible price. The BMSs vary, the battery designs vary. It's things that you're not going to see, they're not going to tell you about, and you won't know about until after you have the battery. A particular problem is that most LFP batteries are made overseas. And if you buy from a vendor that has overseas support, you're going to be talking to a call center somewhere in Asia. They tend not to be very helpful in my personal experience, and that's disappointing. But also the warranty can be questionable. So if you buy a battery from a less known manufacturer, do look into who's going to support it and how they're going to support it for you. This is one of the reasons I think Airstream uses Battleborn. They're made in the US, they have US support. They've got a great reputation for things like that. You do pay a premium for that, but it could well be worth it. And also keep in mind, buyer's remorse is not something that they're going to care about. If you buy it and you decide you're not happy with it, quite often large lithium batteries like this cannot be returned to the manufacturer because you're not legally allowed to reship them. They are a regulated device. There's a lot of federal rules around this, and sometimes you are just stuck with it. So choose wisely. If you go to LFP batteries, you do need to think about getting amp hour metering. In other words, the voltage meter that's built into your RV will just tell you voltage. And voltage is not really very helpful when you're talking about a lithium battery because the lithium batteries tend to hold the same voltage as they're being discharged and then rather suddenly drop off a cliff. So reading the voltage is not really going to give you a very helpful indication of how charged that battery is. Enter the amp hour meter. There's a number of brands of these. They all do basically the same thing. I like the Victron Smart Shunt because it's easy to install. You don't have to run wires inside the RV. It installs right at the battery. You access it through an app on your phone. That's a screen capture on the right from the app. And yes, you don't get a wall-mounted meter inside the living space. That is the downside of the Smart Shunt. If you want one of those, there are many others by Victron and many other brands that will do the same thing but give you a wall-mounted meter. But either way, you need an amp hour meter. And that's because this is the only device that's going to actually tell you how charged your batteries are accurately, very, very accurately. Within 1 percentage point, this thing will tell you if you have 98% or 99%, this will tell you exactly how much power you have, no more guessing games. And I can tell you story after story about people that I've met and talked to who said, we thought we were fully charged, and in the morning we woke up and our batteries were dead. But this thing, this SeeLevel tank monitor, it told us we were charged. Well, that's because it doesn't know what it's talking about. Get an amp hour meter and you won't have this problem anymore. I also want to talk about inverters. Inverters are something that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. Now, a lot of RVs built without inverters at all. Airstream started putting 1,000-watt inverters in most of their streams a few years ago. Then they started putting in 2,000-watt inverters. And now they even have a couple of models with 3,000-watt inverters. If you have a 1,000 or 2,000-watt inverter and you're thinking about upgrading, think twice. This chart is designed to give you an idea of why going from 2,000 watts to 3,000 watts is not all that helpful. There's very little you can do with a 3,000 watt inverter that you can't do with a 2,000 watt inverter. And if you're thinking, well, I'm going to run my air conditioner, well, that's a whole nother story. Sure, a 3,000 watt inverter will have the capability of powering an air conditioner, but you're going to need a lot of custom wiring, which gets expensive, and you're going to need an enormous battery bank. And we will talk about that in more detail. The sweet spot for most people is a 1,000 or 2,000 watt inverter. I would go with 2,000 for most boondockers. It's capable of running anything you plug into it that fits into a household plug. So if you want to run your hairdryer or your electric skillet or your toaster on your batteries, 2,000 watt inverter is for you. That is right now the sweet spot, and you won't overspend because the jump from 2,000 to 3,000 watt capability is significant. Power stations. And this is where we're ending up here. If you're running off things off your inverter, like a hairdryer, those two batteries in the front of your RV are not going to get you very far. You're going to run down those batteries pretty quickly. Power stations are becoming the answer to that. It's like the portable and rooftop solar problem. Rooftop solar is convenient, as I said, but expensive. Portable solar, you get a lot more for your dollar. The same is true of power stations. Power stations are just basically big LFP batteries with an inverter attached. And that's a picture of one there. The thing at the top is a 1 kilowatt-hour battery. That may or may not mean anything to you right now, but we'll try to explain that. With an inverter. And the beauty of it is that you can plug in, you can see the backside of it there in the lower picture. You can plug in all kinds of things, including your entire RV. And the power station will charge everything in the RV, just like you're at the campground. Exactly the same. You're now running off of your own power source. And this is a lot cheaper per watt hour of capacity. You know, you get more power for your dollar with a power station compared to doing a custom lithium battery install. So what I mean is, go ahead and put 2 lithium batteries up front where the lead acid batteries used to be. That's easy. That's not too expensive. But if you want to have 5, 6, 8 batteries, a power station is emerging as a much better value, much better. One of the things is that everything just works. You just plug the RV into it, no matter where you are, turn on the power station, all the outlets are energized. You can use your microwave. You can even use the air conditioner if the power station is big enough. And you don't need a 3,000 watt inverter in your Airstream. Matter of fact, you're not going to use the inverter inside your Airstream at all because you're using the inverter of the power station. So you don't need an inverter upgrade. You don't need a battery upgrade. You just plug in the power station. And at the same time, it's powering everything in your RV. It's also recharging the batteries in the RV. So everything gets powered by this one box. And that is a really interesting advantage. So interesting that I will go out there on a limb and say, these things are going to kill generators. Generators have a very narrow use case these days, and portable power stations can do everything that a generator can do without the noise, without the fumes, the carbon monoxide, without you carrying around gas cans, without any maintenance. You don't have to run it in the winter to keep it alive or anything like that. And my personal favorite, you don't have to worry about generator hours. You don't have to park in the generator section at a rally. You can park anywhere. Nobody's going to hear this thing because it's almost silent. The only thing it has is a cooling fan. So it's very, very quiet. You can run it all night long and nobody will be bothered by it. So generators now really don't have a lot of use. I mean, they'll do the same thing, but their advantage is sort of limited. If you're in a place where, okay, I need to have power for a week and the power station isn't big enough, okay, generator would be for you. There are a few cases where generators will still make sense, but going forward, I think we're going to see a lot less interest in generators because power stations have most of the advantages. So there was a question in the Q&A from Vincent asking if there's any updates on power stations that will power air conditioners rather than having a gas-powered generator. I think we've answered that question for you, Vincent. Yes, there are power stations that will run your air conditioner. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. One of the things about power stations, though, is they're heavy. So modular systems are super important. If you have a big block of a power station, it's going to be extremely heavy. You won't be able to move it around. So modular systems make sense where you can start with, say, on the left, the 1 kilowatt-hour system, which will, basically almost double your battery capacity if you have lithium batteries. I'm sorry, not almost double, add about 50% more to a pair of lithium batteries. A 3 kilowatt system, 5 kilowatt system, basically just by adding modules. And just for comparison, I put the Airstream Tradewind in there, which is sort of their latest and greatest monster battery trailer. It's got a 10.3 kilowatt-hour battery, which is huge and far more than most people will ever need. It's really kind of overkill, but they put it in there. It's a monster. I wouldn't recommend you get a portable power station anywhere near that size, but for most people, 3 to 5 kilowatt hours would be plenty for weeks of boondocking. So modular systems give you the ability to size the system to your particular needs, which is a big advantage. The other thing to look for in a power station is the TT30 outlet. That's the proper name of the 30 amp outlet that we all know. The TT30 outlet and an output rating on the inverter of at least 2,000 watts means that you can run everything in your RV off it, and you can even potentially start the air conditioner. So this is an exciting development in that place. Plug the RV into the power station and you can run the air conditioner for a little while. Keep in mind, air conditioning uses a lot of power. You're not going to run for a lot of hours on a battery. It's still not a great concept. So if you need 3 days of air conditioning, you're probably still going to get a generator. But if you are going to go this route, a soft start installed on your air conditioner will help quite a lot. And I think it's best to regard the power station and the air conditioner combination as sort of a short-term thing. You pull over at lunchtime, it's scorching hot in the trailer. You don't have a generator, you plug in the power station and run the air conditioner for 30 or 40 minutes while you're having lunch. That's a good use case. So the TT30 outlet is something you want to see on the back of that power station. I will warn you about the household backup power stations, which are most of what you're going to see out there. There's an EcoFlow Delta here, Delta Pro, I think. It's a great product, but it was made for household backup. It weighs 84 pounds. A lot of them weigh 99 or more pounds. You're not going to lift that into your truck bed. You're not going to want to go in and out of the truck bed with it either. And so that's why I say modular systems make a lot of sense. So when you're choosing one, make sure that you're not literally, well, biting off more than you can chew, picking up more of a load than you can lift. Also look at the wheels, make sure that they're big wheels. We've tested a bunch of ones with small wheels, and it turns out in a campground situation on gravel, sand, grass, they're not very movable. So you want big wheels. And of course, you want to make sure you got that TT30 outlet. The other thing that's really helping along with all this picture is DC to DC chargers. If you're a major boondocker and you need to charge between campsites while you're driving, a DC-DC charger can be a very interesting option for you for fast charging of batteries. And there's new air conditioners coming out. Running the Dometic Penguin, which is on a lot of Airstreams, or this starting with 2026, they're putting on GE air conditioners, which are a little better, but they use a lot of power, anywhere between 1,300 and 1,800 watts. That's a lot of power. It's going to eat a power station for lunch pretty quickly. But new brands are coming out. Fioran's got their Chill Cube, which is turning out to be quite popular. There's a company called Gree, which has one called the Eco Cool, which we are currently testing on our Airstream, and the power reduction is significant on those. So there's starting to be some new technology out there which will help with this whole air conditioning off of a power station thing. And it will also help those of you who are still using generators because their power requirements are so much lower. They even are easier on starting up on the generator. And the bonus of it, they're much, much quieter, startlingly quieter. Our Gree, when you turn it on, I mean, it's just a whoosh kind of sound. It's a wonderful thing. So the technology is getting better. Okay, that's a lot of information that I have dumped on you. I'm going to wrap up with a couple more things, and then we're going to go to the questions, and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can in just a minute. So get your questions in there if you have them. I want to summarize with my recommendation on what I call the sweet spot for most boondockers. A pair of lithium batteries. I think that's a no-brainer for almost everybody who boondocks. And that is also a relatively inexpensive upgrade. I mean, you'll still spend over $1,000 on it, but for the use and the longer life and just the great ability to use those lithium batteries the way you want to, I think they're really a smart investment these days. I would also consider, if you want more power than that, a modular power station, portable power station, somewhere between 1 and 3 kilowatt hours. The slide is wrong, it says kilowatts, I meant kilowatt hours. I would recommend 200 to 600 watts of solar, and I would divide that between your rooftop and portable so you have the greatest flexibility. So maybe you got 100 to 200 on the roof, maybe 200 to 400 on the ground. Best possible situation. You've got the maximum flexibility, regardless of what the sun is doing. You've got the lowest cost on your installation by avoiding a lot of rooftop installation. Great, great solution. And I would again say, if you don't have an inverter, you want a 1,000 watt pure sine inverter at a minimum. 2,000s would be recommended if you don't already have one installed. So let's go to what I call the lightning round. I've got questions here. So far,
can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Teed up the questions. I've answered the ones that I could, and I've got the rest of them there ready for you to answer live.
Okay, wonderful. Let's answer some questions here. Brenda came in and asked, please clarify if power needs including AC. That was from the earlier part of the presentation when I talked about power needs. And Brenda, no, I wasn't including AC because AC is a special case. AC, as I said, is a huge power draw, and I would not factor that into my calculations for most situations when you're trying to figure out how much power you need. You should regard AC as sort of a special case. If you're going to use AC a lot, like hours and hours and hours, days, you're still in the generator category. If you just want to use AC for a short time, a half hour here, an hour there, you could be looking at power stations. Kevin, I have rooftop panels. I was considering adding portable solar. How do I connect the portable solars into the system? Good question. We get this all the time. You don't connect the portable solar panels into the existing system. The rooftop panels are their own system. They have their own charge controller. They will charge the batteries. Your portable panels are a separate system. They have their own charge controller. They will charge the batteries. The two systems don't talk to each other. They both connect directly to the batteries. What that means is each system will make its own decision on how much power the batteries can accept. One system may be charging more than the other depending on what the sun is doing. For example, if your portable panels are aimed at the horizon and the sun is low, the portable panels are going to do most of the work. When the sun is straight up north at noon and it's shining right on the rooftop panels, maybe the portable panels have a little shade, the rooftop panels are going to do most of the work. They cooperate. And so you don't have to worry about interconnecting the two systems. However, important to notice, your onboard controller that's telling you how much power is being generated will not show the power from the portable panels because they're not wired into that system. If you put in an amp hour meter, like the Victron Smart Shunt I talked about, you will see how much power is going into the batteries, but the factory installed system will not show. Vincent, and are there any updates on a portable power station that will power air conditioners? Okay, I think I answered that one. Yes, there are. And we will be selling the Soren power system, which is the one that I had in the pictures. We have a long waiting list of them, but we have a lot more on order. Currently, we're not able to ship them this month, but we hope to start shipping in November. We'll have a big shipment coming in for January. If you are interested in the system, I suggest you get on our waiting list. Go to the Soren product page at airgear.store and click the green button that says notify me when back in stock. We'll send you an email in January when we get them ready for the general public, and we'll be able to ship you one at that time. It's a great system. I've been using it for months. We've tested it in many locations. I have to say I'm in love with it. So I think you're going to like it too. Get on the list. It doesn't cost anything. There's no obligation to buy. So go ahead and check it out. Eileen asks, does the Smart Shunt work with AGM batteries? Yes, the Smart Shunt, that's another good question, by the way, doesn't just work with lithium, it works with any kind of battery. What the Smart Shunt does is measure the power going in and out of the battery, including your solar, everything that you're using. It measures everything. It's like the meter on the outside of your house. It's measuring the electricity that you're using. It's also measuring the electricity that you're generating with solar. It is battery independent. It works with any type of batteries. Excuse me a second. Been talking for a while. Rachel asks, how long do lithium batteries last? If you are kind to your lithium batteries, and again, the BMS will make sure that you are, they can reasonably expected to be lasting 8 to 10 years. Your mileage may vary, but 8 to 10 years is a reasonable one. The manufacturers will tell you how many cycles. It will say, oh, it does 3,500 cycles before it loses some of its capacity and gets down to, can only charge to 80%. Thousands of cycles can be expected from the battery before any noticeable degradation occurs. So that's another reason why they're a good investment. Nancy, I have 200 amp hour LFPs and 300 watts of solar. Congratulations. I don't disconnect the batteries for winter storage. Am I doing something wrong? No, Nancy, that's fine. As long as your solar panels are getting sunshine during the winter, they will keep the batteries charged. It sounds like that's what's happening for you, so no worries. Don asks, what is the power converter needed for a pre-2020? You're going to have to do a little research on that. Airstream installed for the past number of years has been installing a converter by a company called WFCO or WIFCO. You should look at the converter that you have and look at that same manufacturer to see if they have a lithium update for it. That would be the first thing, cheapest thing to do. If not, there are many sites on the internet that sell upgraded power converters. You can really buy any brand you want. It's just a matter of making sure that it's going to fit into the available space. If you look at the job and it seems a little bit heavy because it does involve some wiring, it's not too bad, but then it's probably a good idea to get an RV, solar RV electrician specialist to look at it for you and give you a recommendation on the power converter that you need. Don Fonner says, for a pre-2020, is anything additional needed to use the solar hookup provided with the Airstream? Well, if you have a 2018 trailer as you have, there is nothing needed. Actually, there's nothing needed to hook up to any Airstream with a portable solar panel. The portable solar panel connects either to the solar port that's on the A-frame, or before, I think 2017, 2018, Airstream didn't install those, you can connect it through the 7-way adapter. We have options for both with our portable solar kit. So there's really nothing special required. Look at the AirGear portable solar kit and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We do have everything you need to plug into pretty much any Airstream. It's literally plug and play. Anonymous attendee says, Aircon via DC to DC charging from the tow vehicle is a nice convenience. Hence, 3K inverter is real. Would you agree? I don't think that your DC to DC charger can put out enough power to maintain an air conditioner. You may have a really enormous DC to DC converter with a really big alternator on your truck. That is possible, but it would have to be capable of putting out something like 2,000 watts with a peak that would be higher, much higher, to start that air conditioner. Most DC to DC charging systems are not that powerful. So yes, theoretically that's possible. I don't think for most people with DC to DC chargers, they're going to output enough power to do that. Okay, let's see. What about solar generators? Rachel asks. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I hate that term, solar generator. It's nonsense. A solar generator is an industry term for a portable power station with a solar panel built in. I don't like them. And the reason I don't like them is because they generally lock you into their solar panel and it's generally too small, like a 100-watt solar panel. I think you're much better off getting just a portable power station without the solar panel and attaching your own solar panels to it. You can attach any brand of solar panel to a Sorin power station, and you can attach up to 1,000 watts of solar, which is a whole lot of solar, to that Sorin power station. And that makes it a solar generator. You don't need to buy a solar generator that's pre-set up. Get a portable power station that's capable, and then get the solar panels that you want. That would be my recommendation. Jay Stewart says, what's your opinion on leaving the trailer plugged in 24/7? I have deep cycle batteries. Does that change your answer? No, leaving the trailer plugged in 24/7 is okay on late model trailers because Airstream's put in smarter power converters that won't overcharge your batteries. But if you have older batteries, then, older Airstream, it may have a different type of power converter that's not so great. So the answer is, it depends. After about, and don't quote me on this, but I believe 2018 or so, pretty much any Airstream is going to have a charger that you can leave the trailer plugged in 24/7 and it won't do any harm. Before that, you should do some research to make sure that the charger converter built into the RV is the kind that won't overcharge the batteries. Jennifer asked for a clarification. She said, I thought the Sorin power station has a soft start built into it. That is true. It does, Jennifer. However, in our testing, what we're finding is that that soft start is trying to manage the entire trailer, everything in there. And there are cases where you go to start your air conditioner and it overloads. To prevent that problem, it's best to have a soft start in the air conditioner itself. And then you'll be absolutely sure of having no trouble. So it's not required to have a soft start in the air conditioner. The Sorin power station will usually be able to start the air conditioner, but there are cases where it won't. Rather than have some frustration, I recommend now to people that they put a soft start into their air conditioner if they're going to run it off of a power station or a generator. Doesn't really matter which. Soft starts are great things. Jeffrey Hammonds asks, if the house batteries are fully charged, the solar is getting sun, and the power station batteries are plugged into the power cord plug, will the extra solar gain charge the power station batteries? Parentheses, I hope that made sense. Yes, Jeffrey, that made perfect sense. I know what you're talking about. And the answer is yes. This is the best situation, is what we've been testing. We were just at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta a few weeks ago, and we were boondocking, no power, 3-4 days. We put our solar panels out. We plugged them into the Soarin'. We plugged the Airstream into the Soarin' power station. We had full power in the Airstream for the entire event. We could even run our air conditioning for an hour or so in the afternoon if we wanted to. And the solar panels kept the Soarin' power station charged. It was a beautiful thing. We left the rally with full power still in our batteries. I mean, it was ridiculous. We had so much power. We were using 400 watts of solar panels plugged into the Soarin', and the Airstream plugged into the Soarin' as well. So solar panels were charging the Soarin' batteries were charging the Airstream. It worked great. Leslie Ardinger, have you ever encountered the level of non-native EMFs that are emitted from these modular units? I don't know what a non-native EMF is, so I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer that question. I know what an EMF is, but I can't answer that question. I'm sorry. Brian, have you seen or known anyone using the newer 12-volt air conditioners? The newer 12-volt air conditioners are very interesting, but they're primarily getting installed in B vans. And I'm hearing good things about them, but I can't speak to them yet. There's still some things developing there. They are very interesting. I don't think that in an Airstream trailer or Airstream motorhome, there's really any particular advantage to them. The real thing to be looking for is the new super efficient air conditioner models that are starting to come on the market. As I said, the Furrion Chill Cube and the Gree Eco Cool are two examples. Not quite ready for prime time in some cases, but they are remarkably more efficient. And I think that is something we want to keep an eye on. John asks, John Knight, how important is it to update your solar controller following an upgrade from 2 lead acid batteries to 2 LFP batteries? John, it's critical. You do not want to charge LFP batteries on the controller that was made for lead acid because it probably will undercharge them. You won't get a full charge in the LFP batteries. It's not going to cause a problem, but you probably won't get a full charge. Having said that, the AirGear portable solar kit already has a charge profile built into it. It can charge either lead acid batteries or LFP batteries fully without a problem. So it depends on whose solar controller you have. If you buy one from us, you're all set. No upgrade needed.
Rich, stop for a second. We've had a number of people ask about where do you plug in portable solar panels? And since you just answered something about that, could you just explain it where it plugs in and what happens if you don't have a solar port?
Okay. Let's see here. You see this slide here where I've got, can you see the mouse?
I meant into the Airstream.
Oh,
Sorry.
you don't plug the solar panels into the Airstream if you have a power station. You plug them into the power station itself. And that way, the panels keep the power station charged. The power station keeps your Airstream charged. So the slide I'm looking at here, where I've got the mouse, if you can see it, has got a little port behind that door. And that's where you would plug in the solar panels into the power station. So in other words, portable solar panels can be plugged directly into your RV, but they can also be plugged directly into the power station. If you have a power station, it makes sense to plug them into the power station. That way the solar panels keep the power station charged, the power station keeps the RV charged. I hope that's clear. Let me get back to the questions. Vivian says, can I replace my 2 AGM batteries with 2 lithium batteries without rewiring? Kind of addressed that already. There's no specific rewiring, but again, it comes down to whether or not you have to upgrade the charger in the RV, and that depends on what model year you have. So I kind of addressed that one already. Vincent, would the 3.2 kilowatt hour Soarin' power system fit the scenario you mentioned of quick air conditioned cooling on a hot summer day? Definitely yes. That's the system we're using right now. It powers our Gree air conditioner for about 2.5 to 3 hours. It would power a Dometic Penguin for about half that time. Kevin Scott, sounds like the Soarin' system includes an inverter. Yes, all portable power stations include an inverter. So the real question is, how capable is that inverter? How many watts can it handle? But if it can, and the Soren can handle 2200 watts, which means enough to start an air conditioner. What Victron Smart Shunt do you need for a 20x base camp with 200 amp hours? The same Victron Smart Shunt serves any Airstream made. It's the one that I put in the picture. I'll bring it up again. Let's see here real quick. Where is it? There. That one, the Smart Shunt 500A/50 MV. You'll see that printed on the side of it. That is the one that you can use with any, pretty much any Airstream. Let's see here. How do you charge the LFPs without solar, John asks. You can plug in the power station to power whenever you get access to it. You can charge it with a generator. That's not very efficient. You can charge it with the DC to DC charger in your truck if you have one installed. So you have 3 options there. Do we sell DC to DC chargers? No, we don't. We don't have recommendations. I would stick, Red Arc is a popular brand, I can tell you that. But I'm not going to make a specific recommendation on those because we haven't really researched them very carefully. Let's see here. Kevin, do you think the new AC units are going to mean days of boondocking with AC with a Soren and 1,000 watts of solar? I think that's definitely in our future. The ACs are getting better. 1,000 watts of solar is a lot. It's quite possible that you could go, run your air conditioner for 3 or 4 hours a day with 1,000 watts of solar in a power station. Yes, that's quite possible. Don asks, is the Soren weatherproof and suitable for a truck bed? It's suitable for a truck bed. It is not weatherproof. We're going to have a weatherproof cover next year available to sell that you can put over it, or you can just cover it with a tarp. As long as you don't cover the cooling vents on the side, it'll be fine. Steve, let's see here. We answered that one. Let's see here. The weight of the power station that we're selling, it depends on how many units you buy. We've got the weights on our website. If you go to airgear.store and search for the power station, you will find all the data there, weights, sizes, everything. And Vincent asks, are there any shareable reasons that Soren became our choice? We have a whole page on our website about that. If you go to the Soren Power Station page on our website and scroll down, you'll see a question that says, why AirGear chose Soren? Because it's a really good question, and we give you all the reasons why we chose it. Mostly for the reasons I talked about, though. It's modular. It's got the TT30 outlet. It can do 2,200 watts. It can start an air conditioner. It has big wheels, and you don't have to pick 100 pounds up. Those are some of the key reasons why we picked it up. And it's also made by a very reputable company. I know they don't have a big brand reputation in the US, but this is one you're going to be hearing a lot more from in 2026. Really top quality product. Everybody who sees it just raves about it. So I can't wait to get it out there to all of you. I'm sorry that most of you will have to wait till 2026 to get it, but hopefully in January we'll be shipping them in quantity, and we can talk a lot more about it then. Okay, I think I'd like to wrap up now. I want to again thank you all. Appreciate all the great questions. And we appreciate you being customers of AirGear, and we look forward to serving you in the future. Thanks for coming.